Hello, I am going to do part 3 of Hardship and Loneliness, and this one focuses on a common theme that I found in the Old and New Testament, and it's what the Bible calls the crushed spirit. Crushed. And I know what it is to have a crushed spirit. And I'm pretty sure most of you, if not all of you, also do. Hopefully not now, but it could be. Depends upon the Lord's timing and His work in your life, just as mine. It's like Solomon said, to everything there's a season. And I'd probably, before I look up the verse, I'd look up the old song. I think who did it? The Birds, that old 60s tune. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Yeah, alright. Oh no. So the crushed spirit. And so I might be a while on this one. I was going to put it off, but why put it off? I mean, I'll tell you what, I've got a long list of these to do. A long list. I think I've got about 30 of these that I'm just driving along in my car usually, and I think I'm going to do a story on that. And I email myself, I pull over and stop, and then email myself the idea, and this one come to mind. Hopefully one more on hardship and loneliness, the crushed spirit. And I do have some reading, because I've got some experiences to tell you, but I'm going to read one verse. Start this off. I hope you all are doing well, and Proverbs 17:22. Proverbs 17:22. A cheerful heart is a good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And David wrote in Psalm 34:18, "Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice." One more from Psalms 38, verse 8 through 10. David said, "I am feeble and utterly crushed. I groan in anguish of heart. The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing." And I'm going to leave the reading right there for now. I don't like to talk too much about myself. I think I've gone on enough in the past couple of years off and on about, my own personal hardships. And I've lost a lot of people to me, pretty much everybody that I truly cared about, other than my children, but they don't live around here. And my grandchildren, of course, and my dog. Now let's start counting them off. I think I just named everybody right there. My children, grandchildren who don't live around here at all, and my dog who is right behind me and hopefully stays there until I'm done with this. But the people closest to me, my mom and a couple other people close to me that I won't name, suddenly were gone. And that's how, so I say it comes in threes. Seem to be some truth to that. Hardship. And it can knock you out. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You've heard of people that suddenly lost everybody and everything. And if that's hard enough, then suddenly they get a cancer diagnosis. and it's like, wow. And then somebody rips them off or something, and you just see these people and they are crushed. I've been crushed, and you go through it alone. I've been going through it alone, but actually it's brought me closer to God. And it occurred to me tonight that the hauntings I've told on this channel, most of them have been very disturbing to me, particularly those that have gone on in my house throughout my life, off and on. Very disturbing. But I said I was going to take those things because I prayed to God to take those kind of things away from me. And He didn't. And, I went to church, I prayed about it, and everything I could do. And things still go on. So I decided I was going to take the hauntings, which my mother always said were the devil's way of trying to disrupt my life. I don't know if that's true or not. But I said I was going to turn them in, use them for the glory of the Lord. And someday I would. I said I would. And I didn't even know that YouTube or any of this would exist, and these things have been going on in my life forever. As long as I can remember. Always. Off and on. Not always, but enough. I might go a year with nothing happening. Then something may, and I've got things going on every day. And I said I would turn it into the glory of the Lord. And I praise God. I've been able to do that through this. I've told the ghost stories here, but I've also told them in a way that they give glory to the Lord. And quite frankly, the worst of these hauntings didn't push me away from God. They, if anything, brought me closer to God. And the same with crushed spirit. Honestly, I don't know why I've gone through so many hardships. Maybe it's just me, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to compare my problems to somebody else's because everybody has them. But I know for me personally, I've been pretty down and out, crushed spirit, to the point where each day can be a struggle. Believe it or not, each day can be, you don't even know why you're going through it. Some days, but the only thing that kept me going, honestly, is knowing that my children love me and grandchild loves me. And the other thing is, I profess to be a Christian, and I can't let the Lord down. If nothing else, I represent God, and I cannot fail Him. And giving up would be a failure, and I can't do that. And so I've decided that, like the hauntings, I'm going to take the loneliness and hardships and ask God to give me a way to give Him glory and do His work through it. And here you have video number 3, Loneliness and Hardships, the Crushed Spirit. So offer it up to the Lord, your hardships and loneliness. Offer it up as an offering. And here, let me read one verse. Comes to mind here. And I've got some things to talk about. So this may be a long one. This might be a long one. James 1, verse 2 through 3. James 1, verse 2 through 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. One more time. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. All right, so the crushed spirit. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories that aren't very, I wouldn't say they're uplifting at all. I'm going to share it with you. One is about a priest, a Catholic priest. His name was Father Dan, and he was probably in his mid-50s. My mom knew him, and I was going through marriage problems when I was about 20. I think I was only about 20, 21 years old. I got married when I was 19 and my wife was 18. You better believe we had some marriage problems. Neither of us were ready for marriage. Oh, we tried. Well, she had Father Dan meet me after work. He actually drove to where I worked. I worked alone in a warehouse. And I remember it was a winter in upstate New York. And I got out of work and I walked out that front door of that warehouse where I was the only person there. And there was a man in a little car, a priest in black. And we sat, I think he sat in my car, with the heater going. And we talked, and he had me tell him about my marriage and what was going on. And I was talking to him, and he's sitting to my right. I'm in the driver's seat. We're not going anywhere, we're just parked in the parking lot where I worked. Nobody else was there, nobody. And as I'm telling him all my woes about how my marriage is not going well, and we argue and there's no communication, and trying to figure out how to work things out, make my marriage last. And he didn't say a word. And honestly, I kind of got the impression this man is very depressed. This priest or no priest, he seemed like he had a lot of weight on him. He really did. And I'm just telling you the truth. This isn't really too uplifting, but make of it what you will. Well, I got done telling him my marriage problems. And you know what his advice was to me? A Catholic priest. He told me to divorce her. He says, I think you should get divorced. And that's all he said. And he said, have a good day, good luck. And he got in his car and drove off, and my mom said he killed himself that week. He killed himself that week. She called me up and said Father Dan committed suicide. And that was the same week. Man, you don't know what people are going through. Men of God, women of God, they're going through a lot. We got to help each other out. That really saddened me. I remember it to this day. That really broke my heart. Because I did perceive that the man was more depressed than me. He seemed like he had a heaviness about him. And I'm going to tell you about somebody else, and this happened quite recently. Somebody I knew. We'll just say that I was in close proximity to this person, but I didn't know this person well. A big guy, a rather gruff guy. He wasn't very well liked by a lot of people because he had some pretty rough mannerisms with people. He could be rude. He could be abrasive. And I'm a big guy, and he was bigger than me and kind of imposing too. And he could say things that were kind of mean, just little quips. I mean, he wasn't like threatening or anything like that, but he could just say and do little things that kind of bit, ouch, to not just me. Everybody I talked to didn't like him. But I will say that he seemed to me to have everything I wanted. His family was all around him. His marriage was working. He had a nice place. And it seemed to me that he was on top of his game, though I'd known that he'd gone through some hardships publicly, had been humiliated publicly. He didn't do anything terrible. But when you're in a small town, everybody knows your business. And that's one thing about small towns. And I have got to tell you the truth. Honestly, I didn't wish this man any harm, but I really didn't care for him either. He really rubbed you the wrong way. And every time he'd rub you the wrong way. Every time. And I really didn't care to be around him, but I had to be around him, and I'll just say that. And one day I picked up something inside me, something deep inside me, said, and he was kind of abrasive to me, standoffish, as usual. And I thought, I think this man's severely depressed. And I said, yes, I think he's severely depressed. And I said, I need to be nicer to him. I need to go out of my way to be nicer to him. I'm going to get teary about this. This is hard. Oh. Well, I saw him one day sitting in his driveway all by himself, and he had family. He had a man. It seemed like he like the king of his kingdom with his family all around him and stuff. And he's sitting in his driveway with his head in his hands. And I walked by and I said, hey, I'll make up a name. This happened recently. Hey, John, how's it going? And he was sitting there and he just went, oh, hi. He went back. Oh, and the guy hung himself like 2 days later. Man, that blew me away. I don't know what, it really, as much as I didn't like the guy, I felt like I failed him. It really blew me away. I had no idea that he would do that. When somebody's got a rough demeanor to you, and you don't like them, like I'm admitting, I didn't care to be around this guy. He could be a jerk. And everybody knew it, so it wasn't just me. Everybody except his family, but maybe they did too. I didn't know them very well. I liked them all. I liked them. I really do. I did. The guy killed himself, and it just, oh my God, that hit me so hard. That really shocked me. I broke down and bawled like a baby because I just felt so, I wish I could have done something. I realized that his spirit was crushed too late. And somebody that knew him told me that he had been battling depression quietly for quite a while. So, I've always said, God, I gotta shake this off. It's hard for me to bring it up. This didn't happen too long ago. I've been down and out off and on through my life, and sometimes in my life everything's going great and I'm totally out of myself and enjoying the people around me and the work that I have at hand, projects, just kind of getting on with life day to day and living it pretty good, Doesn't mean I've never been wealthy. But you don't need money to be happy, it helps. I don't know, does it? I don't know, I've never had it. And then I've been down and out at times in my life. After my divorce, I was really, really, really depressed. And a few people recommended that I get some help, get some counseling, get some maybe medication to help me out of it, chronically, manically depressed. And I thought, no, I always said the same thing, no, I'll just work my way through it. It's part of life. I'm not feeling suicidal. I don't feel like hurting anyone. Sometimes people can be down and out because they're going through divorce or some kind of bad family problem. And not only are they depressed, but they're really angry at somebody. So I wasn't, and I've never felt that way. So if somebody harms my children or somebody close to me, well, then I might get, but no, I wasn't feeling that way. I was very depressed, but it was understandable why I was depressed. My marriage was on the rocks, and I lost custody of my children. And that'll make anybody depressed. But I wasn't angry at anybody, and I wasn't feeling suicidal. So I said, no, I'll just work through it. I don't need any counseling. I honestly remembered Father Dan not too many years before that, and what happened with him. That really stung. I said, I'll just work through it. But if you're feeling, you or somebody who's down and out is feeling depressed to the point that they may take their own life, or they may turn their anger on somebody else, or both, which you read about in the newspaper everywhere, every day, it seems like, they need help. You need help. There's a place for medical help and intervention. And if I felt that I was suicidal, I would seek help, hopefully. And or if I felt like harming somebody, I would seek help. And I definitely would seek help in prayer. But there's a place for medical intervention, and hopefully family can intervene to help you out, family and friends. I will tell you, I had a time once, I got to be vague about this, but word got to me that somebody had harmed one of my children. And I was pretty upset. They lived far away from me, but I was thinking about going and killing this person. One of the very few times I've ever felt that way, but I have a couple times, and thank God I didn't. I don't know if I would have, but I was thinking about it. If you harm my children, I think you know how it is. And thank God one of my friends, he knew what I was going through. And my friend Russell, he said, "Hey Tim," he called me Timmy. "Hey Timmy." He says, "How's it going, pal?" And I go, and he put his hand on my shoulder. He says, "What do you say we go fishing?" And I looked at him. He says, "Let's go fishing. I've got a boat." And I thought he was a godsend. I said, "Yeah, okay, I think maybe that's a good idea." And we went fishing, and I was able to talk to him. And by the time I was done fishing, any thoughts of doing something wrong to somebody were gone. And I thank God for that intervention. So I'm only saying these things from my own experience and from other people I've known, not to take crushed spirit lightly. And God doesn't either. Because actually I was looking up verses before I made this video to use, and there were so many I had to throw quite a few of them out. But the Bible, Old and New Testament, is full of God and God's people dealing with crushed spirit, and right to the point that their health is afflicted even. And that, I mean, it's nothing new, is it? I mean, a couple thousand years ago, people got depressed, they got angry, to the point that it even impacted their health. It just wore them down to nothing. And then they pray to God to help them get through it. And like the one verse says, and it seems kind of peculiar, that David knew what it was about in the Psalms. Oh, yeah, I need my glasses. David knew. On Psalms 38, 8-10, David said, "I am feeble and utterly crushed. I groan in anguish of heart." That's how depressed, utterly crushed and feeble, and the anguish of heart, to the point he's physically crushed as well. That's crushed spirit. "The lions may grow weak and hungry." He goes on to say this, and it's kind of peculiar. I had to think about this. "The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing." So it's like my last video. Sometimes just hang on to the robe of Christ. And through my worst, darkest days, God has taken care of me. And I've gotten through some pretty rough times. And I'm not done yet, so I've got to keep hanging on. So where was I going with this? To help each other out, I would say I've got some reading to do. Let's help each other out. I wish I to this day feel pretty stricken that I wasn't able. I recognized Father Dan was depressed, and I wished I could go back in time, and after I unloaded all my burdens on him about my bad marriage, I wish I could have taken his hand and said, "Is there anything you want me to pray for you, Father? Is there anything I could do to help you, Father?" But I didn't do that. Even though I picked up that this man seems like he's got more on his shoulders than I do. I didn't do anything about it. I didn't even pray for him. And the other person that just happened recently that took his life as well, I picked up just a few days before he did. a voice inside me said, I think he's quite depressed. I finally figured it out. This man's not just angry and gruff and rough with people, but he's deeply depressed, and I need to be nicer to him. Too much, too little, too late. So if you know somebody that's like that, don't delay. You know? Just don't delay. All right, a couple things I want to read. Jesus Christ himself, a lot of people don't realize that he was the Lord and he was strong and, the Son of God, and he could do anything. He had the authority to do anything on his walk here on earth. And he didn't have to go to the cross. He could have stopped it, and he had plenty of opportunities to stop it. And he was tempted in the desert by Satan, 40 days in the desert, I believe. But he didn't. Jesus in the Garden of, I don't want to say it wrong, Gethsemane. I always get it wrong. Matthew 26, 36 through 50. Here's our Lord Jesus with a crushed spirit. And I think it's the only place in the Bible where God has a crushed spirit, the Son of God in this. This is Matthew 26, 36 through 50. And I ask you, when I read this, to listen and read between the lines and get the emotional state that he's in during this. He's about to be arrested. He knows what's going to happen. He's going to be arrested, tried, and suffer a very awful death. And he knew it. All right, I'm going to read the whole thing, all right? Then Jesus with his disciples, I already made a mistake. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. Good Lord. Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed. Oh, he choked up. My Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. He said, couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? People let you down in your darkest hour. He asked Peter. That's what he asked Peter. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, that would be his crucifixion that he knew was coming. Horrible way to die. My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look at the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. And while he was still speaking this, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him a large crowd armed with swords and clubs. And from the chief priest and the elders of the people, Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. That would be Judas. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. So Jesus knows what it's like. He had a crushed spirit there. And he didn't have to go through that. He didn't have to. At least that's my understanding. He didn't have to. He could have gotten out of it. We'd all be doomed if he had. I want to go on one more reading. Find it. More words of Jesus. John 16:20, Jesus said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, that you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You will grieve, but your grief will be turned into joy." And again, in John 16:22, Jesus said, "Now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy." I read that again. John 16:22, Jesus said, "Now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy." And I had a lot of other readings to talk about Job. An example in the Bible, a book that I liked when I was a kid, Job, and Ecclesiastes was a favorite of mine too. But Job lost everything. Job was a good man. He wasn't Jesus Christ or anything, but obviously Son of God. Job was a good man, and I think all of you know the story. He lost his children. He lost his health. It just, it says he was covered in sores and just was sitting in the dust with a piece of broken pottery scraping his sores. And he lost everything. And I guess I will read a little bit from Job. Job grieved the loss of his children and the loss of his health and wealth so much that he cursed the day of his birth. Job 3:1 through 26 says, Job said, "Let the day perish on which I was born, and the night that said, a man is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, nor light shine upon it." And you read that from Job, and you're thinking, Job's broken. He's broken in body. He's broken in spirit. He's broken in spirit to say something like that. Curse the day I was born. Right? He's broken. But he did not lose his faith in God at all. And like he said, naked I came into this world, and naked I shall leave. Let's see. I don't want to say it wrong. Yet Job in chapter 121 said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." And, I want to say that the book of Job closes. Job 42 closes. I'll read it. Job 42 verse 12. "The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life with more than the former part. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys." And in his time, that was a great wealth. That's what they had. "And he also had 7 sons and 3 daughters." It says afterwards, after his suffering and loss, and he stayed truthful. His friends, all right, his friends gave him poor advice, right? And God said to, I want you to pray for your friends, for their forgiveness. That's pretty cool. God knew that his friends were giving him bum advice, but God didn't despise his friends. At least they were there for him, kind of. But they didn't give him good advice. And God took note of that. He asked Job to pray for your friends. And God forgave his friends. I'm not going to read that verse. And he had a daughter named Jemimah. The second was Keziah. And his third daughter was Karen Hapuk. Nowhere in all the land were there found women as beautiful as Job's daughters in the second part of his life. And their father granted them an inheritance along with their brothers, so they were all blessed. After this, Job lived 140 years, and he saw his children and their children to the fourth generation. And granted, his children were wiped out, killed in the beginning. These are after God restored him. And so Job died an old man, full of years. And I think that's all the reading I'll do. But there was something else. If I don't remember, tell it. I'm going to bring up my mom again, and I believe I've told this a few times, but I'm going to tell it again. That I do believe my mom, who passed away a couple of years ago from the recording of this, not quite 2 years ago, I do believe she appeared to me in kind of a heavenly visitation, and she looked wonderful. Looked like she was 30 and very happy, in white robes with a gold belt, and this. And she took my hands and said to me, "It has to be this way, just for now. So persevere like Job did, and like Jesus did in the garden, up to the point he was tortured, beaten, tortured, humiliated, mocked, and nailed to a cross, an innocent man, who, the Son of God, who could have gotten down from that cross anytime he wanted to, and he didn't, for you and for me. And hang in there, and let's help each other out. I give you the lessons of Father Dan and the man that I just spoke of, and I'll just call him John. God knows who he is. And if I put it upon you, if you feel like, I don't know how you pray for somebody that's passed on, or somebody that's committed suicide, but I don't know how you pray for them. But if you feel like praying for them, pray for John, and God knows who he is and where he is. And Father Dan, this happened a long time ago. If you feel it, I don't know, how do you pray for somebody that committed suicide? I don't know. But some of you might have an idea, or maybe you don't. I don't know. If you're going through a hard time, hang in there. Hang on to the robe of Christ. And Jesus, crushed of spirit, he took it all the way to the cross. I mean, the only light at the end of the tunnel for him was after he rose on the third day. He took his crushed spirit all the way to the cross. And, we are like Job, we hope that it's just a season where we're suffering loss, loneliness, heartache, illness. Job was very ill. He lost his health too. And we hope, like that we'll be like Job, that we'll come through it and we'll be blessed and have a full life again in this world. And I hope that happens for me. I hope it happens for you and everybody you know. But also remember that Jesus was crushed of spirit right up to his last breath, where he uttered the words, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." It is finished. And then he gave up his spirit, right? And all these things happened, earthquakes and stuff. And the curtain was torn too in the inner curtain in the temple. So hang in there and help anybody you know that seems like they're going through some dire straits, you know. My old favorite band. Going through some troubled waters. Help them out any way you see fit. Definitely in prayer. Definitely. Don't be like me, where I knew these people were depressed and I should have been praying for them, and I didn't. And that's why I wept bitter tears when I heard that man killed himself recently. And I just remember him sitting there with his head in his hands, sitting in his driveway all by himself in a chair. And I said, "Hey, John," that wasn't his real name. I said, "How's it going?" For once, he didn't say anything mean to me or anything rude, didn't laugh, ha ha, you know. He could be that way. It was almost bizarre. For once, he just said, he just looked up and says, oh, sideways, he just went, oh, hi. And then went back to this. Man, take my word for it. Don't let that happen. You know, if you sense in your spirit, or the Spirit of God leads you, tugs on you and says to you, this person is depressed, they need your help. Administer them in prayer. Administer them anyway, just a kind word. Anything you see fit. Whatever you know what you got to do. Just do something. Because I regret it to this day that I didn't. And those are just two people. I probably could think of some others easily. I'm pretty sure I could. Other people that I wished I'd intervened and didn't. So, the other thing, if you're going through a hard time, crushed of spirit, it's painful, and you may have people around you helping you, and sometimes nobody can lift you out of it, you know. It's something you got to go through all alone, one way or the other. But you can turn these things around and use them to give glory to God, like I'm doing now, to whoever will hear it. Just like all those ghost stories, all those hauntings, and I've still got them going on. That I said I was going to use those to give glory to God, and I think I have on this channel. And take your situation and offer it up as a sacrifice to the Lord. As a sacrifice to the Lord, an offering to the Lord. And use it some way to give glory to God and to help His people out and do His will. Because Jesus said, if you do it to the least of these people around you, you do it for me. So that's one way you can, give it your suffering, your loneliness, your hardships as an offering, your crushed spirit as an offering to the Lord. Just figure out and pray to God to put somebody in your path that needs your help, or to put something on your heart that needs to be said or done. So that's all I think I got for this one. So that's it. Thank you. God bless each of you. Good day. Good night. God be with you.